Welcome, everybody. This is the September 18th meeting for the Committee for Persons with Disabilities. Welcome. We have a new member who I'm looking forward to meeting. We have a guest speaker. And our chair just walked in, so she's gonna take right over. Nice to see you, Victor.
Well, we can go ahead with the introductions.
Okay. Jessica, do you want to start the introductions and we'll just come down the line?
Yes, how full of an introduction or brief of an introduction would you like?
Detailed.
Hello, my name is Jessica Kramer. I am appointed by Jim Desmond to this committee. I am a lived experience, expertise person. I've taken my lived experience and taken the tragedies and triumphs and become very educated in the elements of both difficulty and triumph that I've experienced both personally and now as an advocate for other people, especially seniors and significantly disabled, multiple co-occurring type disabilities, not just behavioral health and mental health, but behavioral health, mental health, or substance use, mental health, as well as physical disability, and the overlap and intersection between the three. And my most passionate part of my work is law enforcement, education and training and collaboration around senior and disability victimization policies, service animal laws and best practices, and the training for that. Thank you.
Good to see you. Where's my she came with Lucius. We forgot to introduce him.
And my service dog, Liz.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon / evening, I guess. My name is Humberto Miran, otherwise also known as Beto, so feel free to call me Beto. I was appointed by Chairwoman Vargas, District 1. I previously served here at the county actually in her office for a couple of years as her press secretary, but my experience is mostly in the media and education. I sustained a spinal cord injury almost 30 years ago. September 30th. It's going to be my 30th year living with disability. From the get-go, I realized that I had a voice and I had the opportunity to educate others on the challenges that people with disabilities face in the community. So even in high school, I started, advocating for people with disabilities. My classmates. I went on to have a career in the media. I was a sports anchor for a local Telemundo here in town. At the same time, I continued advocating for people with disabilities. Eventually, I served as a board member for Access to Independence, a nonprofit here in San Diego. And then eventually I started or founded what was a small nonprofit back then to precisely advocate for people with disabilities. So we've been doing that for about 10 years. And what we do is we provide scholarships for people with disabilities, specifically students, and also grants for adaptive sports. We do that through working in the community, fundraising and just a lot of work really to do that. But I'm really proud of that, proud of the collective effort that we have been doing for about 10 years now. So in a nutshell, it's been 30 years of, speaking in the community, advocating for people with disabilities, mostly in the education sector. I focus a lot on educating others about these challenges, about the things that we need to change, the things that we need to improve in our community to make sure that everybody's included, that everybody has the opportunity to participate and flourish in the community, which I think is really important. And also, I serve as a governing board member for San Isidro School District. Specifically, I joined that board or ran for that board because I saw some deficiencies or some challenges for the special ed program. So aside from my career, which I continue in the field of communications, advocating for people with disabilities has been one of my passions and one of my responsibilities that I feel I have as a person with disability. So I'm really happy to join and really happy to get to learn about everybody, but also get to learn about our role here and really help the group.
Happy to have them here. My name is Dr. Carolyn Smith. I am a combat wounded Army veteran. I was injured in a roadside bombing in Iraq. I was the reserve machine gunner, so not only did I have exposure from roadside bombs and whatnot, but I'm also a burn pit veteran. And that means many of us inhaled these various unknown toxins, and I've never smoked a day in my life, and I have beginning stage COPD. So not only do I advocate for the veteran space, for the biotech space, but I'm an international speaker, and I coalesce with lung consortiums around the world to educate them on what a burn pit veteran is, so they can expand their scope on their technologies and modalities and therapeutics that could come into the veteran space for burn pit veterans. And burn pits are not just Iraq and Afghanistan, but it's also Vietnam, which my father is a Agent Orange Vietnam veteran. So I get to advocate for that entire space. I have a nonprofit, it's small. And we wrote a book. I have an amputee cat, and I created the very first 3D printed prototype prosthetic for felines. And the whole point wasn't to like give cats new legs. It's really to expand the conversation about how cool disabilities can be to kids with the advancements in technology. So the children's book that I wrote, we actually put it into a nonprofit and donate it to kids that are in critical care, Brady's Children's, Kaiser, NICU, PICUs, to inspire young kids, especially with the amputations, but with disabilities, just to see disabilities in a way that is really empowering and super rad and super cool. And then recently I got my PhD. My background is 30+ years in anti-terrorism and anti-money laundering. And so my PhD is a Doctor of Management for Homeland Security, focusing on counter-threat finance. And I am your chair, and I'm delighted that you're all here.
Susan Madison, been on the committee now for a few months, but new generally. Retired from the city of San Diego as the ADA point person. And before that, certainly a lot of work for the federal government through the National Council on Disability for a year, and a lot of nonprofits. And worked in the developmental disability field across all disabilities through independent living. Served with Jacqueline, our speaker today, on the California State Independent Living Council, appointed with the governor for that, and done a lot of personal advocacy, systemic change, public policy. Those are my passions.
Our next to follow. I'm Jeanette Shelton, appointed District 3 Tara Lawson Reamer. And I have a background in disability management. I was at the University of California, Berkeley for 16 years. I did consulting with Kaiser, doing mostly workers' compensation. And then I was at UCSD working in their disability office within human resources, working with faculty and staff, helping them stay on jobs, making sure that ABA accommodations were made appropriately. And I've been on the committee now for about 3 years, and I'm the vice chair.
And then we have Mary McKenzie online. She is participating via a accommodation due to qualified disability. Mary, will you introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Todd. Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm not there in person with you. Welcome to the person who's newer than I, Umberto. I think this is my third meeting, perhaps my fourth, so I am new and learning. Mary McKenzie, I'm semi-retired professor of political science and international relations at the University of San Diego. I've been disabled since I was a kid. I have arthritis and was diagnosed at 5. And without giving too much away, that was a long time ago. And so the way they fixed me, if you will, was a lot of surgery. Because that's what they did back then. They didn't have any of the meds that they have now that actually fight the disease. But anyway, so I am also thankful for medicine and the technology and technological advances that have made it possible for me to get around and do what I've done. And my purpose and sort of my goal in serving on this committee, of course, is to be more involved in seeing how policy is made in the county and to help make policy in the county that makes accessibility a real thing. Not 70% of the time, but 99% of the time. And I focus more on the rights aspect. What rights do disabled people have? Which of course the same rights as anybody, but a lot of people don't know that. So that's sort of my active part of my disability. I think I told you I was able to teach a class at USD on international disability rights, which was a real eye-opener and very interesting. So I'm happy to be here. Hopefully next time I'll be there with y'all in person.
We're happy to have you, Mary.
Thank you.
Should we introduce ourselves? Todd?
Yes.
Okay. I've never used this before. Just push the button and I go.
And pull it to you.
Oh.
You have to whisper in it.
Okay, great. So I'm Cameron Clay and I'm the new program coordinator with the Office of Ethics, Compliance and Labor Standards. So I'm working closely with Todd in our office and I'm here to help out with some of the well advanced preparations. And Todd thought that, well, this position was probably going to need to do this anyway, but as Todd and I got to talking and he learned that I have my own lived experience with, I have some loved ones that are neurodivergent, and then I also am a late in life neurodivergent diagnosee. And so I'm very passionate about the ones, I don't know, I was really excited when I started working for the county that our neurodivergence training actually touched all three. And so I was really happy to see that the county acknowledges those. And so that's kind of where my passions lie. It's in the neurodivergent world. Yeah,
Thank you.
happy to be here.
I'm happy here.
Hi, I am Katie McKnight. I work with the Department of Human Resources here at the county, and I've been working with the committee for 5 years now, supporting their administrative needs.
Oh, the other soldiers.
And I am Todd Hood. I'm the Chief Privacy Officer for the County of San Diego, as well as the countywide ADA Title II Coordinator, and serving in the role of staff liaison for the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and am really excited to have, we're getting fuller participation, so I'm really excited to see more and more people come on, so thank you all.
And we have one more person online, I hear. Thank you very much.
Diane
Diane?
Ashton is online. Would you like to present, to introduce yourself?
Sure, I can give a brief introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Diane Ashton. I'm with the County of San Diego Behavioral Health Services. I'm an Assistant Medical Services Administrator, and I oversee the Office of the Public Conservator and the CARE Act program. Todd invited a representative from our office to come and sit in and listen and learn. So that's what I'm doing here today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Diane. We appreciate it. There'll be a discussion, a bit of a discussion on CARE Act, so you'll be able to hear more about the perspectives.
All right, welcome everybody. This is our September 18th agenda. First thing I'd ask is if you're here, if you can please silence your phones or at least put them on something better than ringing, that would be great. And I'm gonna call this meeting to order, and I think we've started recording or no?
We
Yes,
have.
we have,
Yes.
perfect, okay. That's because I was late. Oh, I was appointed by Joel Anderson. I'm TBI, so I will occasionally throw random things to all of you, so you know my reason. Agenda item 2, our just cause statement and or consideration of a request to participate remotely, emergency circumstances. And we have one of those, I believe.
So actually, Mary is participating as an accommodation for a qualified individual with a disability. So that accommodation has been granted.
Awesome. It is now time to vote on July meeting minutes. Do we have any conversations about July meeting minutes? Questions, comments, concerns? Going once, going twice? Can I have a motion?
I move that we approve. I move that we approve the July meeting minutes as written.
I'll second.
Outstanding, thank you. Agenda,
Aye.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Ayes have it. I had espresso before I came. Apologize in advance. Agenda item number 4, members of the public. This is our non-agenda comment. Members of the public may address a county issue not elsewhere on this agenda. Each speaker may take up to 2 minutes. Speakers may be limited to less time if several speakers have requested to speak on the same issue. The Committee for Persons with Disabilities is prohibited by the Brown Act from acting on or voting on any issue that is not already on the agenda unless deemed to be urgent. Do we have any non-agenda public comment?
I do. Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to re-communicate and reiterate the senior and disability victimization policy that is the result of Senate Bill 338, the Senior and Disability Justice Act. I know that I often refer to it, and it is somewhat connected to our agenda today, but non-specifically. And so I just want to really take every opportunity that I can to just reiterate. It's a mouthful, and as we know, elder and dependent adult abuse often gets simplified to just elder abuse. So I'm wanting to reiterate that it is always elder and dependent adult abuse. And more so as we're moving towards a more inclusive version of disability justice, dependent adult needs a lot of explanation because just in the terminology alone can be very misleading. It can often cause people to think, and also law enforcement and other community agencies to think that a dependent adult is someone under a conservatorship or a guardianship, and not often considered for people with disabilities or invisible disabilities who live independently. In order to live safely and independently as a person with a disability, it can take a lot of coordination and a lot of help and a lot of accommodation, and can be very complex. And so beginning to understand that, and just reiterating the terminology that a dependent adult, the Welfare and Institution Code has changed. And sometimes we don't see that change in documentation, but it includes, it's a person 18 to 64, regardless of whether the person lives independently. And so I'm just, again, taking this opportunity to reiterate what the definition of a dependent adult is. And so we can move away from the misunderstanding that it only qualifies a certain type of a person with a disability, and that we could be more aware of the inclusion. And also the senior and disability victimization policy itself, even though it is mandated by California law, it is a mandatory policy with 27 approximate mandatory elements, things that say shall and must when it comes to how law enforcement interacts with a senior or a person with a disability. And it is as significant as something like domestic violence in how strict the law is, and also in how specific the law enforcement policies are. And right now we're living in a world in our county and in California where the senior and disability victimization policy, although mandated by law, is almost invisible. And looking to change that in this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Has that changed yet? Has it actually gone? I knew it was being written, but.
Well, there have been, so one of the changes I'm excited about is that California has now a Elder and Disability Justice Council that meets quarterly. And I listened to their past meetings and also was able to participate in their last meeting. And they are changing the language by using the language elder and disability justice, which I think is what we're going to see moving forward. And I think that we will see more laws that back that up. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody online? Yeah. Agenda item number 5, we have a fantastic guest speaker. I cannot see at the podium, but I'm sure she's fabulous. Jacqueline Jackson, California Commission on Committee Disability Access.
I'm really excited to introduce Commissioner Jackson, and just to give a little background, I found her as I was doing some investigation and realized that wait a minute, I wonder if that's the same lady that served on the County of San Diego's Committee for Persons with Disabilities years ago. And certainly when I reached out to her, she said, "Oh, yes, that's me." And so I'm really excited to have Commissioner Jackson come and speak to the committee and see what the committee has grown to, how the committee has developed since her time on the committee. But while she's coming forward, I'll just say that Commissioner Jackson, as was stated, is currently serving on the State of California Commission on Disability Access, with her term finishing in January of 2025. And then she's also serving on the 79th District Senior Advisory Council that was organized to help seniors in the 79th Assembly District gain an effective voice in the state government and to grow leaders in their communities. And I was informed that she's also just recently appointed to the City of San Diego senior, is it a task force, a committee? Advisory board. And so just really excited. I felt that it would be wonderful for this committee to hear from someone who served and continues to serve. So Commissioner Jackson, wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And then when I heard all the introductions, I'm just over my head with joy and gratitude that we have such a wonderful, knowledgeable board here with the County of San Diego. I used to serve on your board many years ago, and we did a lot of things, but we didn't have the dynamics that you guys have here and things that we were here. I was under Ron Roberts, if you remember him, as supervisor and things. From sitting on this committee, a gentleman that came from the from the City of San Diego, looking for people to work with in-home supportive services, IHSS. And so I went and served on their board for many years. When I started, it was really interesting because the people were just really excited about me being there. I was a consumer and things of that nature. And they had never had a consumer as their chairperson, and they still haven't. I was their first and last and things. And I remember when I came on board and they nominated me and no one ran against me. And so the current president was really impressed. He said, "We've never had that to happen." And he told me, "Well, if you need any assistance, let me know. Because, I'm right here to be able to support you so that you could be a really good, a good chairperson." and things. And I said, okay, I said, thank you very much, but I think I can handle it. And things, I said, and I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I have a master's degree in nonprofit business management, and, you know, and I've served, you know, in a lot of capacities, with people that you have to have a certain, decorum and things of that nature. So we did really, really well and things from that. And from that committee, I ended up getting involved with the acts, the State Independent Living Council. There is this Department of Rehabilitation, their advisory board. There is something called the Deaf and Disabled Telecommunications Program. I represented blind and low vision people for the whole state of California. And there's just lots of committees and things that I've gotten involved with because I am truly a very active person in the community. I call myself an advocate for people who are differently able. And that's just me personally. I have that challenge because when I first was growing up, when a car was broke down on the side of the road, they said it was broken. It was broke down. And then they decided when we started having people with disabilities, they said the cars were disabled. And I said, we're not this, you know, we're functioning. We just function differently. But, you know, we have things to contribute, and we are a very wonderful part of this community and things. And so I have done quite a few things in the state of California and with the federal government. A lot of things that I do, if there's something going on in the community, I'm going to show up. And I'm going to bring people with me and things of that nature. And we've had situations with school board when our Secretary of State I helped her to get on with the school board and things. I was working at the Urban League at the time as Director of Education. And when she would have challenges with the African-American community, something that was going to come before the school board, she'd call me. And can you be at the meeting? And I said, yes, I'll be at the meeting, but I would show up. There was a gentleman that would always do things in the community, and he was a part of the Muslim community. And I would say, I need 100 Black men in suits to show up at the school board meeting. And they would do it. And they would be there, and it would make other people nervous, you know, and things of that nature. And the security, when I'd get out the car to come and say, what's going on, Jacqueline? I said, I'm just here for the meeting. So, well, why are all these other people here? I said, because they're here for the meeting. You know, what action item? Oh, you'll see, you know, and things of that nature. But we made a difference. And then they would put the item off to the end. You know, the meeting starts at 2. You know, we're supposed to be over by 5, 7 o'clock, we're still sitting there. But, you know, we just order pizza, people go in and out, and we stay. And the action item that we needed to have taken care of, it was done. So there is power in numbers when we want to have something done and things. And it's just a fabulous opportunity to be able to serve and things of that nature. And sometimes, you know, it's surprising the lack of knowledge that people have with people that are, quote, differently abled and things of that nature. Because I was told that, you know, that things could not happen. And I don't understand the word can. I said, if we work together, we have, you know, you put your mind to it, we can do all things that we need to do. And especially when you have the support of others. I remember when I was applying for USD, is where I got my master's degree. I was in the second cohort for their master's in nonprofit business management. And so we were, excuse me, I was a part of a speaking group, and they told me about it for the second year, and they had the director of the program to come aboard and talk to our group, and they told her, she's blind, we can't have her in the program. This is USD. And so they went and told her that she's more than qualified, and if you don't admit her into the program, we will get together and sue you. So needless to say, I got on board. And I graduated with a 4.0 GPA and did some, wonderful things. But, when people don't know, they don't know what they don't know and things of that nature. So it is so important for us to continue the good work that you guys are doing and things of that nature. And there's other generations that are coming up and they need to know. And people that are, that you represent here at the county, I'm sure there's people that need your input about action items and things of that nature. I have not been a part of any organization yet that just needed some education about the abilities of people that are differently able and things. So I just want to know if there's any questions that you may have. Like I said, I've sat on so many boards and so many commissions, and I continue to do it. And when they create new ones, I'm there. And I will always be there as long as I have breath. I will continue to serve because we're needed and to help those that are coming behind us. I just applaud you for what you're doing. This is an impressive committee. Any questions?
I do, it's Jeanette.
Yes, Jeanette.
Do you, I know you said it's been a while since you've been on this committee.
Yes.
Do you recall any special projects or any work that the group at the time did that you're particularly have fond memories of or particularly proud of?
I know I should know that answer.
It's been a while, I get it, I get it.
It's been a while, but one thing that I really did appreciate that, and you guys probably do it too, when they had, the regular supervisors meetings, we were there. We made sure we had somebody there. If the whole group couldn't come, we had, at least two of us to let them know. So just our presence would change conversations and things of that nature. So
We actually, it's Carolyn, we actually haven't had, a presence there, so that's,
Oh,
you bring a really good point.
okay.
My question to you was there something that was left undone, that you wish had moved forward? Like, was there a topic that was just not necessarily difficult, it just never went forward that is applicable to today, for the disability space for the county?
Good question. Good question. When I come up with that answer, I will come back as just a public member and say, yeah, this is the information that that is needed and things of that nature. So we didn't have all the professional people, like all of you are professional, on the committees and things. But we were there, and like I said, we were there together, and we did go to the board meetings, and we did speak up, and we did submit papers about whatever issue that is going on and things of that nature. So it was a wonderful committee. It was one of the most active committees in the county of San Diego for people that are differently able.
I have a quick question, Commissioner Jackson, it's Zoom Medical. First of all, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining us and sharing your experience. And that's kind of where my question comes from is in what area or how can we as a community here in San Diego County create the biggest impact as a group? What would be a recommendation you could give us?
Your presence during activities. I don't know if your group gives recognition to people that succeed in certain areas dealing with disability and things of that nature. Because they just need to know more about who we are and what we do. You know, and unfortunately, there are situations that happen that discrimination still takes place within our group of people. And I remember back in the day with I worked for, it was called Community Service Center for the Disabled. It's Access to Independence now. And I was their employment services worker for 1 month, and I outproduced the specialist, so I got that position, and then the director left within 3 months, and I became the director and things, and so we were just doing wonderful things, and I was well connected and get connected with people who could make decisions. I like talking with and working with people who will not tell me no. I want yes and things. And so the district administrator, I had to talk to her because I wanted to be on the board of directors with, not the board of directors, the executive committee for CSCD. And it was all males. There were 5 males. And I'm running a program. I'm making money. I'm bringing in money, you know, on top of that and things of that nature. And there was one other African-American female there, and she was a bookkeeper, and she was in the executive suite. And so she came and told me, she said, Jacqueline, the director said it'll be a cold day in HELL before he has a woman, let alone a Black woman, on his management team. So I was disappointed for about 24 hours. Then I called to the organization, the nonprofit who funded the employment services people. And I told them that I was leaving. And I told them why. And this wonderful woman, she went and contacted them and said, either you put Jacqueline Jackson on your executive committee, or we're pulling your grant money and I'm gonna set her up as a separate organization in competition with you. You know, so you just have to do, you know, people that are, you know, like on different levels, just do your work and don't take the nonsense and things that happen and things of that nature. And so, needless to say, I got on the board. Yes, and we just keep on, you know, you just have to keep on keeping on. So the discrimination doesn't just take place outside of the quote, differently able or disability community. It takes place within. But we just have to have principles and stand on our principles and produce and keep that smile on your face. I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Hi, this is Jessica.
Okay.
I first just want to thank you for the inspiration. I am definitely a keep on keeping on person. I have experienced a lot of retaliation, both in my advocacy and as a person with a disability asking for accommodation. And so that does hurt me sometimes and sets me back a little bit, sometimes a little more than 24 hours, but not too much.
Yeah, that's because she calls me.
But yes, you know, the fear to continue on when retaliation is an element of requesting accommodation or using your voice publicly.
Yes.
I do feel like I've been blackballed and excluded, and I very much do want to continue in your shoes, the way that you have been able to continue to be invited and included and fighting for your right to be there and having those great successes. So I really do thank you for that. And then, one area that I am really interested in is I have been receiving the emails and trying to include the California Commission on Committee for Disability Access in the meetings that I participate in. It hasn't quite worked out because my health has been very poor this past year, but it is always on my mind every month. And I have reached out and communicated a couple of times about some of the areas where disability accessibility has affected me the most. That is primarily with my service animal. And then also in some other areas. But when I learned that the CCDA is primarily for physical accessibility, although I did hear that there is some interest in moving service animal into the CCDA, I just wonder, because it's such an important commission and there's nothing else like it. But from what I can tell, it's not as inclusive as it could be with regards to issues outside of physical accessibility. And I wonder if there's a way that this committee could help with growing. I think it's based on a grant as well, which is a very specific type of funding, but I just would love to know if there's a way that this committee or any insight you might have on how we might be able to grow or involve or even have, if need be, because of the funding and the charters, commission that includes disability access for all the other sorts of disabilities.
Okay. I did not, what I would like for you to do is to, your concern specifically, if you could put it in writing to me. We have a meeting next month. It will be on the agenda. Okay, and so that we could have this as a topic and things of that nature, because, and we are, we get funding from the governor. So we don't have like grant money. We're a line item in the state budget and things, and we deal, they deal a lot with discrimination complaints. If someone files within the state of California, if they file a discriminatory complaint, we deal with that and help to resolve that issue and things of that nature. So if there's something that you're needing, if you could get it to me, we'll get it on the agenda. They're wanting to have a meeting in San Diego. They haven't found a place yet.
We got a place for him.
How many
Okay.
people?
There's normally no more, there's normally on the board and things of that nature. They need a place for like that to accommodate like 100 people.
Let's work on that.
Okay, because I will gladly tell them, okay, I have the place. You guys said, come on to San Diego. And then I want to see all of you guys there and things like that, and we'll cheer on and things cheer you on, and next thing you know, there'll be an opening and you'll be on the board too. On the commission too, because that was just, you know, and that's, they just need to know of people and what's going on, because I didn't know about them. And someone called me at the time, Angela called on the telephone and asking me some questions. And I said, what is this regarding? And she told me, and then she said, oh, I just wanted to get some information about you. Then she called the next day and told me I don't have a staff person do your application. And then on the third day, I was being submitted to, my name and my application was submitted to the governor. And the fifth day, I was on the commission.
That's some efficiency we
So,
don't
yes,
use.
so-
So do you happen to have any female combat wounded veterans on your board? Cause I don't like a no either.
No,
Alright.
no.
All right, you.
We need you.
That shall change. Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else?
Anyone on the online
Anyone
as well?
online? Yes, of course.
We just gotta keep up the good fight, and I'm glad that you're here, and we're all team members together.
Yes.
So thank you.
Commissioner, I absolutely echo the comments that we are so happy to have had you here and speak to us. Your dedicated service through your whole life is really a testament to your good characters. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so
Thank you
very
very
much. Just make sure everybody knows.
Woo!
Thank you.
Right, you are fantastic.
Want to have a-
Oh, and now, yeah, Michelle, you want to,
Hi, Michelle. Jessica. Hi.
Hey, Jessica.
you can go ahead and.
Okay, so thank you again, Commissioner, for being here. You're always invited back. Bring treats. We like treats.
No, we'll bring treats.
So we are on agenda item number 6, and we're first going to let Michelle, take a seat so she can be ready for this. But it is time for the good parts. We are going to vote on our bylaws for our committee. We have quorum.
Yes.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna open this up for quick discussion. Or we're going straight to vote.
I'm good. I'll just start. I'm good with the bylaws. We've talked about it several times. There's been several copies sent out. We didn't get to vote on it last time because it wasn't a quorum. But I am certainly in support of the way they are, including council's comments, etc. That's just personal.
And just for a reminder for everybody, if you can put your phones on silent while we conduct the end of the business, that would be perfecto. Jessica, any comments, concerns, bylaws?
No.
No. You, sir, I don't believe are voting because you are relatively new. Michelle, comments, concerns?
I do not get a chance.
Okay, and anyone on Mary? Questions, comments, concerns about the bylaws?
I saw one typo, but other than that, no.
Just in the event you guys didn't know, Jeanette, you get a absolute huge kudo, for your advocacy for getting this done. Many of us have been on the board for a hot minute and we haven't gotten to this point, so this is a very exciting point, but it wasn't without you. And Todd, thank you, and Katie, thank you for helping us get through the hurdles of county council and their feedback. So with no further discussion, we're going to call for a vote.
Could I ask Mary, what was the typo so that we can fix that?
Hold on. I didn't know if I was still on speaker. Sorry. It's in the very first part, County Board of Supervisors. Apostrophe is in the wrong place.
I love that.
Oh, okay, yes, so it should be supervisors. Okay, we can address that.
That was it. Otherwise, I think they're great.
Can I make one comment before we go? In terms of the, on, I don't know the number, but in terms of the 3 comments, that are on here, section 5, so when we vote on them, we'll vote on that struck through sentence to be removed completely, right? The sentence that's,
Can you read what the three comments are?
the comments were, so this is the, section on special committees. It said the task force or ad hoc committee, subcommittee will cease to exist upon completion of its assignment. And then what's crossed off is any task force or ad hoc subcommittee that's comprised solely of less than a majority of committee members may, but is not required to comply with the Brown Act. And the comment, this was from general counsel, correct?
Yes.
So, was even an ad hoc, is subject to the Brown Act. So we just take that sentence out because it's not correct. And then under section 6, governance, Robert's Rules of Order govern the operation of the advisory committee in all cases not covered by these bylaws. County council just had suggested Rosenberg Rules of Orders, but I think we've always used Roberts. So my suggestion would be to keep that.
Yes,
As
and
it is.
I remember discussing it 2 meetings ago where we said that.
We
and
said
I'm in
yes.
agreement.
Yes. And then the final, comment was under quorum, section D of governance. A quorum shall be defined as a simple majority of members currently appointed, i.e. over 50% of members. And we crossed out the sentence that said, and in attendance in person. We have, because of the accommodation considerations, the definition of members excludes unfilled positions and those vacated by resignation or removal. A quorum is required to hold and conduct any meetings of the committee. That's underlined, that should just be not underlined as a sentence.
But the part that struck out is,
The part that struck out is and in attendance in person because
Oh, teleconference.
of the teleconference as an accommodation. Okay, just make sure that those points are.
All right.
I move we accept the bylaws as discussed just now with the deletions or comments from council.
Do I have a second?
Second, I just have a comment that, Umberto, if he's officially on, but did not have access to this.
I did, but I can abstain.
Yeah.
For now, since I'm not that familiar.
You did have access
Yeah,
right
that was
now.
my mistake. No, I didn't have it in the email. Was it sent by email?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll abstain because I'm not comfortable.
Okay. So,
I appreciate it, Michelle.
so we have a motion, we have a second, and all those in favor of
Wait,
passing.
I have a question. This is, I think it's an appropriate time. I have found a couple more typos. Can I just give those to Todd? They're tiny typos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Send it off to Katie and then CC myself and Jeanette and we'll make the typo corrections.
Okay, because they're
Thank you.
nothing, it doesn't change any kind of substantive meaning or anything like that.
So
So
it's not. Nope. Awesome. All right, so all those in favor of adopting finally the bylaws for the Persons with Disabilities Committee, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? We have 2 abstains, 4 yeses and no nos, and the motion passes.
Five yeses.
Oh, 5. Sorry, I'm sorry, Mary. I apologize.
that's okay.
So this is, we should all be running around the table or rolling around the table. So after the church, we have. This is the most exciting thing ever, okay?
Not to
Woohoo!
pour water on it.
Don't
This
worry.
has to go back to general council and the board of supervisors.
It'll go to the
correct?
Board of
Yeah.
Supervisors, yeah,
Just the board of supervisors.
yes.
Okay.
So once we make the little corrections, whatnot, that are not significant, we are good to go. So congratulations to the
That's
board.
an amazing accomplishment.
Fine, yeah,
Thank
our
you.
bylaws, yes. Jeanette, Jeanette will be recognized at some point with a certificate of how awesome you are for finally getting this done, because those of us who've been here for a while know that this consumed pretty much every meeting we had. So thank you for your due diligence on that, and everybody, including Mary, for your typo feedback, because it makes us look more awesome. So I appreciate y'all.
Now we know Mary has the eagle eye.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good job.
We need
Good
an
job.
eagle-eyed person.
Good job. All right. I'm so excited for this. Okay. We are at agenda item number 7, disability rights and behavioral health services.
With Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the most important thing that I can say is gonna match, something that I'm gonna say about IHSS, which is the ADA reasonable accommodation process is not simple. And Jeanette mentioning that she served a role as an HR ADA coordinator, and that her purpose in that job, or what she made that purpose in her job, was the success of the people that she was advocating for and helping negotiate accommodations. We, in my experience, and also the experience of other agencies and caseworkers in county contracted organizations, is that it can be a very adversarial process, the way it's set up right now. And a simple request can oftentimes, there is fear of retaliation and also legitimate retaliation. And so having it be a standardized process, not just making the request, but actually engaging in the ADA process, which I talked about a couple times before. That's making the request, that's the request being received, it being assessed for reasonableness or undue hardship, some effective accommodations being coordinated or compromised on. That interactive process takes skill and training. If the people are not if the people in place don't have that skill and training, if they're not ADA coordinators of themselves, or if they haven't been trained in the duties of an ADA coordinator, the efficacy of that process is limited. And then once effective accommodations are agreed upon and implemented, there's still a give and take that often happens. And even more so, people's accommodation needs can change as their disabilities or medical conditions get worse or get better. And as many of us know, you know, there's a lot of variability in ADA accommodation needs. And so what I really believe the best practice and solution is to have a formalized ADA engagement process to ensure that the people who are being engaged, that are receiving the requests, are not just looking to defend their position or their employer's position or even the county's position, but to really be ensuring the success of the person that is engaging. So that process too is not as simple as, well, we're waiting to receive your formal request and then we'll get back to you. Again, it needs to be more collaborative, more inviting, more encouraging, more assuring. But having that formalized process and making sure that the right people are in place. The way that I see that happening is for disability rights, anybody who's referred into behavioral health services, anybody who's referred into care court will immediately undergo a cooperative and encouraging ADA assessment process and be moved into a robust ADA engagement process. Something that's flexible around the ebbs and flows of a person's disability needs and limitations, and always looking at how those accommodations are effectively playing out or not, and being flexible with that. And that it would be its own set file that stays in that person's file. You know, in this case, for disability rights and behavioral health services, it would be a behavioral health services file. My understanding, and this is not a guess, this is from a lot of investigation and questions, is that behavioral health services is doing their own ADA compliance, and that it's not well organized, and that the people who are in the position of making the accommodations are not trained ADA coordinators, nor are they trained in the duties of an ADA coordinator. And also, to the best of my knowledge, a majority of our contractors that are contracted through behavioral health services, while their contracts do say that they're obligated to state and federal ADA laws, there's no actual guidance or formula for what that looks like. And so when I speak to directors of agencies that are contracted with behavioral health services or caseworkers, caseworkers are afraid to engage in an ADA reasonable modification process because their experience is that it will delay and result in negative outcomes for their clients, especially in homeless and social services. In housing, if a caseworker leaves with ADA reasonable modification needs, and this is for shelter placement, crisis house, detox, at the core of disability rights in behavioral health services is basic needs. And my fear is that because we don't have a robust basic needs infrastructure, we just don't have enough housing. That doesn't mean a person with a mental health condition is responsible for not having housing. And with the new SB 43 law, especially with the expansion of grave disability to include severe substance use disorder along with serious mental illness, come the obligation of the person with a disability to be able to provide for their housing, food, clothing, shelter. Housing, food, clothing, medical care, adequate medical care, which is definitely the most dangerous line we're riding right now, which is forced medical care. And also ability to provide for their own safety. And so this is directly linked to the Senior and Disability Justice Act. And it's also a fine line that Adult Protective Services rides. So if a self-neglect is something we hear a lot from Adult Protective Services, it's a type of abuse for an elder or a dependent adult or a senior or a disabled person. And the way that a person can be referred for self-neglect is that they have access to everything they need, but they're not using what they have. I don't know a single person in our low income Medi-Cal eligible population that has everything they need, let alone are choosing not to use it. So I think we're grossly misusing self-neglect in place of senior and disability victimization. When really what we have is a lack of ADA accommodation, a lack of access to basic needs, a lack of caregiving. I know that our county is something like, last time I heard a couple years ago, it was like 8,000. I think it's double that shortage of behavioral health staff needed to meet basic needs. I haven't seen anybody I've advocated for or know get access to a therapist through behavioral health services in about 5 years, certainly not a trauma therapist. The Medi-Cal waiting list is essentially closed. So what's happening in our behavioral health services right now is anybody that's having difficulty with the basic need is being assessed for mental health crisis or behavioral health services, and that bypasses straight to a medication pathway. It doesn't move into a basic needs pathway. It doesn't move into securing ADA accommodations. It doesn't ensure law enforcement and hospitals and medical providers are accommodating and mandatory reporting abuse. That's also a huge part of this, is a lack of understanding by mandatory reporters and caregivers about elder and dependent adult abuse. And what I see for behavioral health services is the same thing I see for IHSS and really everything, which is a very clear set of guidelines, a robust process of engagement, a supportive process, and making sure that the right people are in place to do that, and that this is something that happens at intake at the referral level, and it's a file that stays in that person's file throughout their entire time. Thank you.
So my throwback to you with all of that God-loving, amazing information. What's the action item?
Put
Because
on the agenda for future committee discussion.
it's you,
There's right now national, but especially California restructuring of our mental health services. That was Prop 1, SB 43, CarePort, and now Prop 36 as well. And so to put on the agenda for future committee discussion, to see how we can address the disability rights and civil rights concerns and components of this restructuring of the mental health services system. Thank you, Jeanette.
So, you knew I was gonna ask you that. If you don't know, I'm an action item person. So if you sit up here and give awesome information, sometimes for somebody, I have a traumatic brain injury. All of her amazing information is very hard to absorb, but it's still awesome. So the action items, so each time any member, does a report, my kickback is always gonna be an action item, so. You are
Jeanette provided me the most amazing experience of listening to me and helping me organize my information in a way that's appropriate for the committee business.
And I love your cue cards. You guys clearly killed it. Okay, so thank you very much. So Katie, you have,
Can you give me the title one more time?
for a few, action.
Action item, put on the agenda for future committee discussion, the restructuring of mental health services and what our committee can do to represent the impact that it has on the civil rights of people with disabilities.
So the question that I would have, is that within our purview? No.
No.
So what I would challenge you with is, no, you're killing it. You're doing great.
Put on the agenda for future discussion as to what is in our purview to do.
Let me, Diane Ashton is on the line. Is any of what Jessica just stated, does it resonate? Is there any opportunity for behavioral health services to take some input on what you may have heard, Jessica? Or we might be able to take it offline, but is there anything from your perspective that resonates there?
I think so. Jessica provided a lot of information and I'm still trying to process it. I was trying to take notes as quickly as I could. Yeah, I think, we're always open to feedback and improving, processes. So, if there's ideas, recommendations on how to do that and what that would look like, that's certainly something that can be taken back and, reviewed and potentially, hopefully implemented.
Yeah, because I heard restructuring of mental health services, and I didn't know. I know that the county has done an extensive increase in hiring for behavioral health services and professionals in that area. I think there's probably more hiring that's continuing, but I didn't know is there a restructuring of behavioral health services?
Yeah. I think what you might be referring to might be having to do with payment reform and what's the other thing? The county looking more like a health plan or operating as such, which are
Where, Jessica, of behavioral health services health plan?
Yes, the way that I've heard it described larger picture, thank you, Diane, for filling in. I don't understand the intricacies. I do know that payments are part of it, but it's just kind of an overall restructuring that started with Prop 1 that includes CarePort, SB 43, and the new Prop 36. Obviously, I can't speak very specifically on it, but I know that it is a completely different way of structuring like the county. I'm sorry, Diane, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think so. Do you mean like literal restructuring of our organization as a county to manage
Not
the
just the county, but mental health services
Mhm.
at California level.
At the California level? Well, I think, yeah, with like SB 43, I know just for our county, and I think the only one that's implemented it so far is San Francisco. We wanted, of course, we wanted some time so we could try to, have work groups get input and ideas on how we can create the infrastructure and perhaps repurpose or realign existing resources to try to manage what that the influx of referrals for LPS might look like, the kinds, kind of the manpower in terms of staffing. For that piece, that's kind of where we're at. As you know, CARE, we've been almost up for a year, and has certainly been a new process for a new pathway of accessing services voluntarily for individuals. Although there is court oversight, it is voluntary.
Well,
So
I didn't want to, let the cat, not
Go
the
down
cat out
the
of the
hole.
bag, but because we are scheduling for, behavioral health services to present in October. September, but today is September, in October for the, care court. So Diane is listening in to sort of get some additional information, but certainly that is, we're scheduling that for the October meeting to have an actual presentation.
yeah,
I think I just added in SB 43 and CarePort when I talked about the restructuring because it's an important part of the legislation, but I think Prop 1 was maybe what really set the standard for, well, actually, I guess CarePort and SB 43 included. We've received all these mandates from the state and now the county has to figure out how to do it without much additional funding, and that's what I meant by the restructuring.
that would be accurate. We gotta figure it out.
Thank you, Diane.
And
course.
because of that, this is Susan, I, think we should, it's a lot of, detail, I agree, and I'm going to say again, and I thought I brought this up before, I like the name, but I think it's really, what I hear and all the time from you, Jessica, is the ADA interactive process. The filing of a complaint, and then the process for resolving that.
Yes, although I prefer the requesting an accommodation and then following up with complaints. I
Well,
feel like-
that's better,
yeah,
that's better
yeah.
that. So then that's good. So then that's, I think, what we should be focusing on as a committee.
Right.
It's that requesting of accommodations and the staff training, perhaps, Diane, of that process and the understanding legally that is required to ensure equality for everyone, however that is for them. In other words, it's very individualized, it is time consuming, and it's challenging, obviously. But I think that if this committee focused on that, it would be, I could wrap my arms around it better than trying to change the CARE Act,
Yeah,
personally.
Yes. Thank you.
so that would be
An action item?
your action item.
Okay, my action item is to put on the agenda for a future committee discussion, the ways in which we can help
You got this request combination.
Got it.
improve the no, not just ADA, but also fair housing. I think that's part of this, but the ADA and possibly fair housing, reasonable modification, interactive, ADA interactive process and
Or reasonable
or
accommodation.
reasonable accommodations or modifications and help develop some guidance and training. Did we go
Well,
that
we
far?
just,
That's out of our scope,
Okay.
right? So we're not gonna craft training here, but recommendations.
it's that first piece.
Yeah.
And if the county chooses training, I was taking staff.
Yes.
That the staff didn't have adequate training, but I can't assume that.
Okay,
So I think you're totally on task.
okay, so should I start over with the action item?
Well,
Or did I get enough in?
if Kate wants to.
Point of clarification, is this different than the existing ADA accommodation request process with IHSS? Or is this?
Well, it's
expanded?
actually the exact same thing,
But for BHS.
for BHS.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's applicable to both.
Yeah.
Yes, it's applicable everywhere, but these are the two focal items that we have.
So the action item could be replicated for both.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Right, because that narrows us into more focus instead
Yeah, it
of
does.
all this great information that we just can't navigate, it's too big.
Perfect.
Yeah. So,
Thanks, team.
so Katie, so her action item is gonna be replicated for agenda 7 and 8.
For behavioral health services as well
Yeah.
as IHSS.
So is that good for you? Just gonna ADA accommodation request process for IHSS and behavioral health services?
Yeah, just to say though, the interactive process.
Add interactive to it.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Oh,
Look
you
at
are
you.
all the best.
Feel like it's you.
Together we're better.
So, so if Jessica is in agreement, I'm going to
Thank you.
skip 8 so that, because,
Yeah, 8 was a reiteration
Yep.
of the same thing for IHSS.
yeah. I am gonna add one small thing because my name happens to be here. I sent Todd an email who looped in the DA or the DA assistant, I think, in regards to our checklist, thank you. So you brought up a good question that I've been trying to solve is the checklist is going to land where? Where do they forecast the checklist? And this is for
Yeah.
an ADA
Qualifying for special
qualifying
consideration.
disabilities. I had crafted it, but we were having a hard time figuring out where is it gonna land? So I had sent Todd an email, he looped me in with the assistant ADA, so that once that comes back to me, you and I can have a conversation, Jessica.
Yeah, I'm also communicating with the DA as a liaison, and I've been with the help of the committee to be more organized and also help with Todd to be more included. I've also been engaging with them. They're gonna do their video, and if any of our new members want to be included, the district attorney's office is gonna do a video that will be included in law enforcement training around different types of disabilities and in the effort of being more inclusive and also sharing real life stories of hope and meaning for law enforcement, for the culture of empathy. As far as the qualifying for disability special consideration and protection under the law, Adult Protective Services last year actually restructured. They did deep diving on how they're going to recognize if a person is a dependent adult under their mandatory reporting and other requirements. And they have some really incredible feedback around the way that they train. So when you call APS now, they triage you. They ask, what is your disability? What is the abuse or neglect factor circumstance? And what is your vulnerability relative to the type of abuse or neglect? And then they triage you to see if you fit. So the feedback they gave me was actually a set of questions that they could help develop, which would help law enforcement when they are out in the community on patrol. If it's not an obvious disability that they can see, then there are a set of questions they can ask, such as, do you require assistance with any of your daily tasks? Was a great sample question, but my understanding is that this can be collaborative with both the DA and Adult Protective Services, and that would end up going back to Adult Protective Services, the DA's office, and all of law enforcement.
Awesome. So the action item on that is, for me, is I feel that once I get the, and forgive me, I didn't check my emails today, so she may have already replied back. Say again?
No, there's no, I'm on that too.
Oh, okay. That we crafted this fantastic doc, I would say. And we really want the opportunity to put it in post-certification.
Yes.
We just didn't know, because it's gonna be tailored ever so slightly different, if it's going to be post-certification as a whole, or as a training, augment training course curriculum
Yeah.
for law enforcement.
My understanding was
Post-certification-
that it was going to get included in the DA's training that they are working with Post on right now.
Right, so the action item that I'm actively working on is getting that answer. Where is it going to go? So that if Jessica and I have been working on it, if we need to tailor it down anymore, and then bring it back to committee and put it in, and we will be the first committee ever to implement an action item for qualifying disabilities into post-certification.
Yeah.
So.
A great opportunity. So
Yeah.
just to be clear, the first part of the list was, how do you identify a person with a disability? Do they have a disability placard? Do they have a service dog? Do they ask for an ADA accommodation? Do they have an IHSS or other caregiver? Do they have disability housing? Do they have a disability advocate? Do they use any auxiliary aids? That was the beginning of the list, and I would like for our new members to have an opportunity to weigh into that list.
Yep.
And then the second part of that is the set of questions that help law enforcement be able to identify if a person does qualify for these special considerations and protections, which can be a combination of them having, just like the blue envelope program, you know, people see the law enforcement sees this and they have a moment to say, okay, this person most likely has a disability need or accommodation. Opening their lens to the list that I just explained, all those different things. And then also some very easy questions, you know, maybe 1 to 5 that we can agree on in collaboration with the Adult Protective Services, where the average patrol person can respectfully and within the law inquire about the person's disability to see if they do qualify for these penal codes.
And within a reasonable time frame. My whole job in the military, I was a military police officer. So I have intimate knowledge of a traffic stop and the time you really do have and the time you really don't have. So I come from that perspective piece of it, but also the disabled side of it as well. So the action item is still active. Once I get more info, then I would love to have you and I go back through it. And then if Katie can send out that, at least the list to especially to our new members, and those who may not have had an opportunity, if you could resend that list out, and then so you could see sort of where we want to go with that, to get it into post certification.
I think we need not just the list of disabilities, invisible
question.
disabilities, but also the list of questions. I haven't seen the actual list of questions, so we can pull that together.
I've never
seen it. I don't think we got to that point. Probably a whole host of reasons.
I keep talking about it, but I haven't, it was my job and I just haven't done it because of my limitations over the last year, that I'm hoping are going to be better moving forward.
But if we can
Yes, let's
get
do it.
that, then I think that with the listing of disabilities, we can send that out, and then that can be a point of discussion possibly for October if we can
Awesome,
get that.
And I will send that to you, Todd, via text, if that's okay. No, in a document.
I
via
can
text?
figure it out.
I'll
Yeah,
send it
yeah.
in a document, and that way it just be.
Yeah, send it via text.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Katie, if you could set it out, just so even if it's not totally updated or perfect, at least, you know, those who haven't had a chance or haven't seen it recently, they can kind of hone in on it and then add
add what you see, knowing where we want it to go.
And I also need to include the Senior and Disability Justice Act and some of the reference materials that I've been talking about for the last year to include our new members. So
Perfect.
And then following on to what Jessica mentioned, I did get a note from the district attorney's office, and they're proposing to do videotaping in advance of the October meeting. So I don't know if that's gonna work for everyone's schedule to do videotaping before the October meeting, but that's been proposed, so we can work on that. Additionally, since we have Commissioner Jackson here, I was thinking that it might be good to have a group photo. We don't have group photos.
Today I
Since we
have my
have,
hair up and wet because I went to the gym before I came
we
here.
have
Really?
a good number of folks. We may have group photos today. I know that your transportation is at 4:45? 4:50? Okay, so we can try to continue on and hopefully get that. But I did want to point that out for the October meeting.
Absolutely, thank you. We're going to continue for good, okay. Number 10, committee business, Mr. Hood.
So thank you, Umberto, for you are our newest, but we are really excited about Mary and all the others. We're getting closer and closer to full committee. And we got up to 9 previously, and then we had some challenges, but hopefully we'll have some others be appointed in the upcoming weeks. We did want to know if committee members have been able to reach out to supervisors, because we still have one vacancy in each of D1, D2, D3, and D5. So there are true vacancies there. D4, we have our member is continuing to serve in an expired seat, but D1, 2, 3, and 5, we definitely have vacancies there.
And
Yeah, but sorry, it's not that.
happy to have you here, don't know who you are.
Yeah, here's my son.
We'll actually have to continue. Yeah.
I have a question regarding what Todd just said. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, sure.
What is an inspired seat?
That essentially is when the supervisor terms out and
Member terms out.
yeah, so member and a supervisor terms out.
And so the ordinance states that the member should continue to I think it should continue to serve until a qualified replacement has been appointed by the supervisor or by the committee, if it were a committee appointment.
So
So because the supervisor resigned, she stays in the seat and until somebody else is appointed, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
technically,
The supervisor didn't resign.
He didn't, they,
Oh.
I think he did
he
resign.
did
Sure,
resign,
he-
yeah.
Yeah, we're talking for,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that each of us reach out to our supervisors, let them know what the vacancies are within each of your areas. Now I remember, the fuller we get, the more that I'm going to want a secretary to be appointed. We have obviously chair, vice chair, we have no secretary. And I think that we need that position, so, if we're,
Katie, so much.
yeah, we're leading on Katie, but Katie isn't, that's not how our structure actually works, so she's doing it out of the kindness of her heart. So at some point, everyone consider, letting us know if you'd like to be, a secretary, because we desperately need to fill that slot, so that was my thought, I forgot, now I remembered.
Can I volunteer?
We would love you forever.
Yes, forever and ever and ever. And I have to check on outside of our normal election, how we place someone
Yeah,
there.
we'll cover that
But we'll
in
cover
our
that
debrief.
off topic or, out
Yeah,
of committee,
right.
but. We have an internal meeting on Friday, but your name is now written in pen on my.
And others as well, others can,
Yeah.
others can nominate.
It really relieves, chair and vice chair and county staff, to have our own internal secretary, so that would be great if anybody wants to do it. Done with 10. Agenda item number 11, Live Well Advanced Conference in our.
So I'm excited to have Cameron, who is responsible for outreach for the Office of Ethics and Compliance. And so she has presented yesterday in the last meeting that she'd be working on the helping from a logistics standpoint, working with Jeanette on the committee's activities with Live Well Advanced. So we'll have Cameron state what she has done and proposed so far.
Okay, so, we are still waiting on our approval for a booth at the Connection Hub, but working under the assumption, no one's heard back yet, so we're working under the assumption that we're going to have a booth. So we got a tablecloth order, and we talked at the agenda planning meeting, and in order to keep moving along with county vendor timelines, you two said, we like the tablecloth, we're going for it, so I need to follow up with that guy, but I will do that sometime this week. And so do you have a picture of it anywhere, Todd?
I was gonna try to pull that up, but I have to.
I'll tell you, it's we went with kind of a dark teal background color and then just kept it super simple with the county logo and then in bold white lettering, the persons with disabilities.
And we had to do that really to be within the confines of the county requirements. So that's why we really didn't put it on an agenda, because you can say all you want on the lovely, awesome things you want. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's because we already tried that with our cool designs and then figured out none of that is going to jive. So so don't feel like we didn't bring it to you folks on purpose. It was just an abject waste of time because of the box we're stuck in.
Yes.
Evan, do you know what the font is?
I think it's
Sans
Calibri. Is
What
it?
was that?
I was, is it Sans Serif?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
Sans serif.
Since,
Which is a lovely swirly.
No.
Oh, no.
No, it's not
straight.
swirly.
Oh,
Yeah.
quite straight, okay.
yeah, the purpose of stands is that it's not fancy,
Yeah,
so it can be read.
yes.
All right, well, thank you for that, for the
I'm bringing up the
follow-up there.
Yeah, and I've got one of the requirements of a booth at the Connection Hub was to have some kind of interactive activity, so we have a flashcard kind of game that Todd had previously from something. So that's at least a starting point, and then Jeanette, I'll reach out to you sometime soon and we can work on any other great ideas that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, and then lastly, just thinking on the day itself, it's November 21st, which is a Thursday, which is also the day after our meeting here. So if anyone is available on Thursday, the 21st to hang out at the booth and interact with all the lovely people that come by, just start thinking on if that would be part of, if like you'd have availability to do that and keep us posted. Maybe at the next meeting, we can dial in who's gonna be there and when. My hope was that we would have the workshop list in hand today so that you can kind of see like, I really want to be there between 11 and 2, because there's some workshops I want to go check out during this time, but alas, that is not out yet, so.
Where is it being held?
The San Diego Conference Center,
Which
Right.
is where?
it's down.
The convention.
At a
center?
convention center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm new here, so words are.
I was like, oh, the
Yeah.
conference?
Yeah.
What would that be?
That's
Thank you. Yes, so at the convention center, and I feel like there was another thing I was gonna say about that, and I don't remember what it was now, and I didn't write it down here. But yeah, just start thinking on if November 21st, that Thursday, that's something that you could attend, and we'll get a scheduling plan figured out. It's from, did you have questions on time?
No, but, in our meeting, I had asked that if anybody who is attending is going to get, mileage compensation, and you said yes. So if you're going to go and, it's the same, format for the meeting, for this meeting, for mileage, compensation to help offset.
Yeah.
And hopefully to encourage each of you, because the last time Jeanette and I were sitting at the booth for like 900 hours all by ourselves. Met all the awesome people and everybody figured out who we were, and that's great and awesome, but, so to hopefully tempt any of you, please consider it, and, we got mileage for you.
And then they also do, you'll want to register. Once registration is open, you'll want to register, and then they will also send you a parking permit so that you get free parking as well.
Katie, when that happens, can you email all of us and let us know when registration's open?
We'll most
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
let you know.
Good.
And what are the hours?
Great question. It runs from 8 to 4. But we can get there to set up as early as 7, and you can start packing up as early as 3.
Do you know, happen to know where it is in the convention center?
I think it's Hall H, but
Yeah, that's
they'll let us.
Yeah, so that stuff hasn't been determined yet. But you'll at least get free parking and mileage.
I'm gonna use my cheat sheet.
Point of order.
Point of privilege.
What good fun.
Although it's not exactly, it sounds so serious, but is it just me having difficulty, or did the lights turn themselves back up?
I may have noticed that also. I can't tell though if it's my eyes thing or something.
Yeah, I
Okay, oh, yeah.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay.
Thank you.
Look at you using your fancy point of order. I don't like it.
Whoever put this in front of me.
I know. That's why I had to, oh, wait, okay. So with that being said, thank you for the update on that. I appreciate you. We're gonna go to agenda 12, annual report to board of supervisors. We have an annual report here.
Well, there's two.
Right.
I'll just jump in.
Okay.
The one that's the larger one that has the paper clips and should be in 2 font sizes, I believe. Is one that I put together, cutting and pasting from all of our minutes, our meeting minutes. The other one, the 1-page one, is one that Todd had prepared for the Board of Supervisors annual for the report. So we were talking before the meeting, kind of comparing and contrasting, and it seems that, and I'm happy to do this, it seems that this is sort of the smaller one can sort of be considered the outline, and then the more detailed, this, for example, lists, we heard various programs, presentations on the Blue Envelope program, this 1 page. On the other one, it says who was the speaker and what the summary was from the minutes. So it fleshes it out a little bit more, and in the same way, we can do the other items that kind of blend the 2 reports, I think, and if it's too long, we can maybe discuss it at the next meeting and edit it.
And this will give us an opportunity that when we start crafting certificates of appreciation and whatnot, we can reference back here and then have them show up again and tell us something new and cool and updated. Yeah. All right, I like that.
I noticed that the district attorneys.
What page?
My bad, annual report on accessibility, but also in the presentations to the committee.
District Attorney's, the attorney's office,
Is in the, yes,
it's
okay.
in the body of the.
Okay,
Mhm.
so are we doing the CP on the annual report? Are we doing a list of things including but not limited to?
Yeah, so the people that, and there it is,
Thank you.
up on the screen, planning and development, HSA, Office of Emergency Services, County Council, Sheriff, service animal signage, blue envelope, EPA,
District attorney,
district attorney.
I just wasn't seeing it. but-
Okay.
Saying-
Oh, yeah, on the, right, it's on the longer report.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's kind of why we put the two together and come up with something that's, more comprehensive.
Commissioner, thank you for coming
Thank
here.
you.
You're fabulous.
I guess we'll miss our photo opportunity. but,
We take one, do we have time?
We could take one right now. Let's fire drill.
We could do it right this.
Fire drill, fire drill.
Let's,
I gotta hold my hair.
Why don't we,
let's see, well,
take it from here?
we can, yeah, we can, let's do it around around the podium.
Go around the podium?
Maybe look at you and your highlights. Wait, I go, oh crap.
That's all right.
Do you want to just do,
That's all right, we can get that later, or do it over, okay, we'll
just
come
do
over
it here
there.
and that way, Sue, you don't have to
You can stay
move.
where you're.
Yeah,
Logistically, I think it's better.
Yeah.
yeah, just stay right here.
We'll have
No?
But then you're coming.
Oh, okay. Here, I'm gonna get on the other side of you. There you go. And that's Lucian.
That's the only time I can bend down.
The tail, it says tail.
Oh, no.
More like that.
Y'all ready?
Okay.
Just-
Actually, if you all, the standards will move to the right a bit.
Can I pull
Okay.
it? Right?
That's gonna
Yeah,
be great.
perfect.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Uh, I don't know what you came.
That's like you are too.
Probably.
The main one.
I will do that.
Yes, please.
There, thank you.
My hair is like so wet.
You still look beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Makes me like. Being a lot.
If you give.
No cat. That's when I know you're having a good day. You are.
Okay, so we can continue.
All right. Sorry, we were talking about her highlights. Over here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on agenda item 13, new business. Office of Emergency Services, flood fire emergency preparedness, care court presentation.
So the care court presentation is being being scheduled for the October meeting. I am still working on getting the OES, the Office of Emergency Services. They are doing some data collection. So they're looking to provide the outcome of their data collection, because they're doing some things with the community to see what the community's input was. So that's still in the works. And then we did have the new agenda item of with mental health services, but we've already included that in the item there. So I think
For the October meeting with the care court presentation, would it be possible, just so that we can have a broad range of understanding, to also invite somebody from Disability Rights California?
so the committee can certainly, if you have someone that you want to invite, certainly, if you want to, if you have the time on the schedule, we'll be talking about the agenda planning.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank
And if you want to forward off a name or somebody, that'd make it 100 times easier, so we can pinpoint.
Will do.
All right, well, thanks, everyone.
No,
for-
but, excuse me.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could, I don't know if I need to move to add another item to October's meeting, namely a discussion about our attendance at county board meetings. I would be happy to do some research and look and see what might make sense in terms of when we might want to go, what kind of flags to look for. There seemed to be some general interest among you guys when the commissioner spoke about that. So what do you think?
Yep, great idea.
Great idea.
Yep.
So that's a motion if I need to make a motion.
We motion for an agenda. We don't really, so what we'll do is, myself, Jeanette, Todd, and Katie, have internal meetings to set up the, debrief and set up for next month. So Katie will happily tap, and add it so that when we chat in a couple of days internally, then it'll be added to future agenda.
Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you.
idea. Good idea. Awesome.
Anyone else? Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Michelle, any questions, comments, concerns? Going once, going twice? Susan?
Thank you.
Right.
And now we do have some time. We can hear from, would you wanna
We need to
introduce
adjourn
yourself?
first.
or-
Let me, I think
Oh.
we should adjourn.
Okay, we
first.
can.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you everyone for coming, commenting concerning Diane and Mary as well, and of course, the Commissioner. I appreciate y'all being here, and this meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you. And we can